All right, hello everybody. I'm here at AAMI Exchange Day 1, and I'm with one of our newest fellows, Nupur Jain. Some of you might know her, some of you might not, but today I think is going to be a topic that overlaps in a lot of different areas. Technicians, innovators, and their sterilization professionals all together under one roof, which is kind of what AAMI Exchange is about, right?
Right.
Seems
Yes.
about right.
Yeah.
But Nupur, before we do that, you are now a 2026 AAMI Fellow, class of fellows. We had 3 this year, so congratulations. How does it feel?
Oh, feels great. Thank you.
Now, for those who don't know, what is the value of being a fellow? Why did you want to become one?
Oh, yeah. For me, it's a way to thank Amy. I feel like my journey or my professional journey at Amy uh, has been 20 years long now.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I really wanted to be a fellow because, one, I've seen a lot of professionals in the sterilization and cleaning and sterilization world who were fellows and the impact they had. And so it's always something I aspire to.
Yeah.
But it's also like a way of saying, okay, you know what, now I've made a mark, and what can I do moving forward as a fellow?
You know what? It's less so that your fellowship is you making a mark, but more so that the fellowship is recognizing that you have made many marks. I mean, in my 6 years being with news at AAMI, I think your name has come up quite a lot. You've been behind a lot of really cool standards work, a lot of great committees. So thank you for all the hard work you do. And yeah, now you're a mentor, pay it forward, a fellow. You've made your mark.
Thank you for
Fantastic.
saying that. Yeah, no, thank you. It wouldn't be possible unless we had a forum like Amy, right? So I really want to, it sounds crazy, but the idea of patient safety and starting it with Amy makes so much sense. And so, again, thank you so much to Amy.
And we didn't pay her to say that. I should. But Nupur, the other cool thing is that you're here today not just to receive your fellowship recognition, but also to present on a topic that I think is really cool, which is how sterilization sciences and best practices have been kind of keeping pace with the advancement of robotic technologies, surgical robots, things like that. My wife just got out of a relatively intensive surgery. She's fine, she's doing really well, but I was talking to the surgeon after the fact, and he's basically like, oh, she's doing well, but it's gonna take her, like a month of recovery because she essentially lost a fight with Doc Ock. And I thought that was very funny because
Oh,
it's,
no.
the
Yeah.
the robotic implementations and everything. So they used one of those surgical robots, and I thought that was so cool because this is now that technology touching my own life. I'm going, oh wow, this advanced tech. It already helped my wife. So how was that technology cleaned? How would my wife not get a post-surgical infection?
Right. Yeah, and I'm glad to hear your wife's doing well.
Oh, thank you.
Glad she's going to recover soon.
Oh yeah, she's doing
Yes,
great.
good. I've had family members who've needed surgery over the past 15 years,
Mm-hmm.
and I've been with Intuitive for the past 15 years, a big advocate for robotic reprocessing, and every time one of my family members needed surgery, I said it has to be the Da Vinci surgery, right? Like, I am a true believer that it is the best outcome for a patient if you can have a Da Vinci surgery. That aside, in terms of robotic reprocessing, when I first started in reprocessing, the SPD, the sterile processing department, 20 years ago had no voice. It did not matter if they had water running in their SPDs. They just had to turn around a case,
Yeah.
whatever it took, And amazingly, they made it work, But what we've seen is as devices, regardless of whether robotic or not, as devices become more complex, they are starting to get a voice. They're starting to find a voice. They're starting to get the support they need. And we're starting to see better equipment being available for them, better technologies being available, ultrasonic tanks that never existed 20 years ago,
Yeah.
that are now in almost every SPD, And I love seeing that evolution of the SPD.
There's a little bit more awareness. I'm
Yes,
hearing then.
right.
That's interesting too because I can imagine when the first, I guess, surgical robots were starting to be implemented in hospitals, the hospitals were really excited to get them in there because it's going to help with patient safety, patient care. But the SPDs may have not heard about it until it was already
It was
in
already
the facility.
Yes, and talk about, okay, well, you're going to buy this nice Porsche, but because you don't have the right gas, you're not going to be able to drive
Oh my
it,
gosh.
right? And so again, it's one of those things where the hospital system started to realize, well, okay, yeah, just I'm getting a robot. I might as well improve all the other parts of it and not just one part, you know. And so you see this awareness, you see this support that they're getting financially also,
Yeah.
right? Which is important. It's important, and so we're seeing this great growth in SPDs, which is very exciting.
So walk me through that. Can you give an example of that growth? Like, what is one of the best practices now? How do they clean these devices?
Yeah, so definitely automated cleaning has been huge in the U.S. You know, in Europe, it's always been automated cleaning, and now we're seeing an increase in U.S., which is very exciting too. Water quality is something that people are starting to pay attention to. Again, when I started 20 years ago, there was like black specks in the water, and
No
it was
kidding.
still being used. It was not a
Yeah.
problem, right? And now they're saying, okay, well, what type of water quality should we be using to clean these? Water quality should be used in the steam autoclave and machines that so make sure they're run correctly. All of these are advancements that are not happening before. The other thing is, as new robotics come in, how do we clean them so that you're not using as much labor as you did maybe even 5 or 7 years ago, right? And that's a big step up, which is, oh, I can use pumps to have fluid rushing through these instruments, or I can use a rack that is completely designed for these instruments, and that will not only automate it, but also make the process shorter.
Less downtime for the
Less
devices.
downtime. It will
Okay.
make it more sustainable because
Yeah.
you'll be using less chemicals, less water. Yeah, so there's all these advantages now that are coming in that were not even discussed 20 years ago.
So during your presentation today, I mean, you had an hour to share your knowledge and dive into some of the advancements that we're seeing. Was there anything that you think the audience hadn't heard of before or kind of latched onto and said, I want to know more about that?
Um,
I'm putting you on the spot, sorry.
no, it was a great discussion. I really enjoyed the hour because, you know, I only presented for 30 minutes, and then it was just
Q&A.
Q&A.
Oh.
And so there was a lot of questions. I would say most of the questions were around tracking of instruments. Again, very surprising, right? From 20 years ago, no one would even talk about tracking instruments, and now here we are. Can you tell me how we can track instruments so that we know exactly where they are in the hospital?
Okay.
You know, storage of these devices. Do you have solutions for how we can store these devices? And so it's exciting because now we're growing from reprocessing to additional spaces
Yeah.
that also impact reprocessing, right? If you have a device that is packaged in a container versus in a pill pouch, well, guess what? The storage requirements change for it.
No
And
kidding.
how are we impacting those? And so there's a lot of discussion on, I would say, those two topics.
And as a layman, when I think about this, I'm just thinking of one large robotic array, but it's actually modular pieces, right? Is that how
They
that
are,
works?
yes,
Okay.
exactly, they are. And, you know, having them modular is advantageous also, right? Because you only use what you need. Once you start putting them into these big sets, well, if you only use 3, you've lost the other 10 that were just in the set.
Yeah.
No, you know, you still have to
no.
reprocess them again,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I think that's the main advantage of having them modular.
Oh, fantastic. So do you have any advice for anybody who, let's say, one of the things that I've been encountering a lot is discussions from rural hospitals. They're always the last to implement the new technology just because of, technological constraints. That said, that means that right now they're at that new frontier that maybe some urban hospitals have already experienced. Do you have advice for hospitals that are going to be picking up their first, really complex robotic device?
Yeah, we've actually helped a few teams with that. So
Yeah.
we have a team at Intuitive called Genesis Team, and they really dive into the environment of that hospital. So offering unique solutions to each hospital that will one day have a robotic or maybe already has a robotic and then is growing
Yeah.
and is on that growth platform, right? How do we build in operational efficiencies at these hospitals? And so I think each hospital is unique. Unfortunately, there's no one-size-fits-all solution. But getting in front of, okay, what are the cost benefits? What's the cost-benefit analysis of this, right? And really thoroughly understanding that is one way to empower groups to be ready for either growth in robotics or for a new robot.
All right, I'm going to give you one more hard question, which is, are we seeing any changes in standards that have to do with robotic devices?
Yeah, always. It's such a huge field, and there's also a lot of standards, as you know, standards
Oh,
for not
okay.
just medical device manufacturers, but also for the users, right?
Yeah.
I think the big focus right now is on disinfection.
Oh.
So yeah, what does low-level disinfection really require? What is high-level disinfection? And how do we make it so that users can understand those differences too and apply them in their hospital setting? So I think the big next frontier on sterilization standards is the focusing on
It's
disinfection.
a step beyond just wiping down the surface.
Exactly,
Right.
right. That's exactly
Okay.
right. Yes.
One of the things, I think you were the one who told me this, is uh, basically a device needs to be clean before it can be sterilized. And that's a really important thing to think about.
Exactly, yeah. And then not all devices get sterilized, right? So what about the devices that end at high level in disinfection? And what should they be holding up for? And what are the requirements that they should be having? So those are some of the things that we're working on next.
Well, fantastic. A lot
Yeah.
to think about. I'll put some links in the description about exactly about those next steps, what to be thinking about on the standard side. But Nupur, I always have a great time talking to
Thank you.
Thank you for coming to Exchange, and congratulations once again on being a
Thank you.
2026 fellow.
Thank you so much,
All right.
Brian.